Mesechus Kuddushin Daf Lamed, a test contains one Mishnah which divides the daf in half. The first half continues the discussion of mitzvahs atuyas ba'aretz that would or would not apply outside Eretz Yisrael, specifically focusing on Orla and Kilayim. And then the Mishnah introduces the topic of schar for mitzvahs, which the Gemara discusses, along with some agadata. So let's begin. The Gemara says that the Talmidei Chachamim of Pumbedisa, the sharp ones from Pumbedisa, said there is no Isser Orla outside of Eretz Yisrael, meaning all Orla, even Vade Orla, is mutter. So the Gemara says, who sent this psak to Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said, outside Eretz Yisrael, Safek Orla is mutter, but Vade Orla is Aser. And therefore, we have to take action about this. We should hide the halacha that Safek Orla is mutter, because that's going to have people thinking that they can be lenient even on Vade Orla. The Vade Orla should be certainly destroyed. No one should be allowed to eat it. And anybody who says publicly they could be lenient in Orla, their fruits should be taken away. And there's a clause on them, they're not going to have a child or grandchild, which is part of the tzibur. And that he quotes the pasuk, Mashlech Chevel B'Goyel B'Kal Hashem. Where it says, who did the Talmidei Chachamim from Pumbedisa hold like that? They said that it's mutter. So where it says they came from a brisa. There's a brisa which quotes Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi, name Rabbi Yossi ben Dur Maska, the name of Yossi Aglili, the name of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, the name of Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, all the way back to Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, who says that there is no Orla in Chutz La'aretz. Someone asked, no? Well, we just had a Mishnah on the last daf where Rabbi Eliezer himself adds to the list of things that apply in Chutz La'aretz. He adds, besides for the list which already had Orla on it, he adds another thing. He adds Chadash. So you see that he holds that Orla applies in Chutz La'aretz. So what are you telling me here? That he holds Orla does not apply in Chutz La'aretz? Says, no. To change it, instead of him saying even Chadash, he said only Chadash. So he was saying not Orla, but only Chadash applies in Chutz La'aretz. Says the Gemara another opinion. Gemara says Rav Asa said in the name of Yochanan, Orla is Aser outside of Eretz Yisrael, and they said that that's Halach L'Mishmi Sinai. So Gemara asks, what do you mean? We had a brisa where we said that Safek Orla in Eretz Yisrael is mutter, and Chutz La'aretz, Safek Orla in Eretz Yisrael is Aser, but in Chutz La'aretz, in Syria it's mutter. In Syria, if the Vadai is Aser, why would the Safek be mutter? Halach L'Mishmi Sinai that the Vadai is Aser and the Safek is mutter. How could that be? So Ravasi was quiet for a minute, and then he said, okay, so the Halach L'Mishmi Sinai must have included this. It said, Halach L'Mishmi Sinai, Vadai Orla in Chutz La'aretz is Aser, but Halach L'Mishmi Sinai, that Safek Orla in Chutz La'aretz is mutter. Okay, now the Gemara moves on to Kilayim, also Rav Asi named Rav Yochanan. So the Gemara said, Rav Asi named Rav Yochanan, somebody who eats Kilayim in Chutz La'aretz gets Malchus. So the Gemara says, we said in our Mishnah that Kilayim and Chutz La'aretz is only D'Rabbanan. So Gemara says there's two types of Kilayim. There's Kilei Karim, and then there's Kilayim of grafting, where you plant one species of tree into another one. So Kilei Karim, where you plant different types of grain or vegetables in a vineyard or together with each other. So that is what is D'Rabbanan and Chutz La'aretz. Grafting is what we're talking about here. Grafting is Aser Deiraisa outside Eretz Yisrael, and someone who's going to do this is going to get Malchus. Now, the Gemara shows this from Estira in two psukim. The Gemara quotes Shmuel, who says on the pasuk as Chukasai Tishmeiru. First of all, he says Chukasai Tishmeiru implies that these chukim already existed before. This is a chayk that goes back to the days of Noach. It was commanded to Bnei Noach themselves. And what is it? It says Behem Techal Esbir Kilayim and Sadchal Sizara. You should Sizra Kilayim. You shouldn't do two types of Kilayim. Kilayim of mating different animals together, and Kilayim of planting different plants together. And then those two are linked. Just like the mating's only a problem if you actually mate them, planting is also only a problem if you actually graft them. And just like mating is a problem even in Chutz La'aretz, grafting is a problem even in Chutz La'aretz. Now that contradicts the pasuk which we saw, that it's called Sadcha, that it's called your field. So what do we do with that? So the Gemara says that is for Kilayim of Zerayim. That does not apply in Chutz La'aretz. but kilayim of grafting applies in chutzaretz, like we have just explained. So the Gemara brings it in. The Gemara says that Rav Chanan and Rav Anan were walking on the road and they saw somebody planting seeds together. He was doing kilayim of zrayim. So Rav Anan said to Rav Chanan, let's put him in chayrim because he's violating an Isser D'Rabbanan. So Rav Chanan said, it seems like the halacha is not clear to you because he was saying that they were outside of Eretz Yisrael. There's no Isser of kilayim outside of Eretz Yisrael. So then they went a little further and saw somebody planting wheat and barley in a grapevine, in a vineyard. So that's Aser. So again, Rav Anan said to Rav Chanan, let's put him in chayrim. And Rav Chanan said that it seems like the halachas of kilayim are not so clear to you either, that he used a different word here. He said that they're not lit up for you. Because even though you're not allowed to plant this type of kilayim, which is in a vineyard, that you're not allowed to do that at Eretz Yisrael, but we hold like Rav Yishaya, who says that it has to be 3 in one handful. You have to have wheat, barley, and grape seeds in one handful. Just planting wheat and barley next to existing vines is not an issue. So what we've just done is shown another distinction. Even without grafting, there's a distinction between planting different types of seeds together just with each other and between planting them together with grapes. So the Gemara brings another incident on that subject. The Gemara says that Rav Yosef planted different types of seeds together in a field without grapes. So Abai said, but we know that kilayim outside of Eretz Yisrael is also D'Rabbanan, so how are you allowed to do that? And Rav Yosef said, no, that's with grapes outside Eretz Yisrael. If it's without grapes, then it's not usher, and we're outside Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara explains what's the difference. So Rav Yosef said that kilayim with grapes is usher bahana in Eretz Yisrael, so then Rabbanan made a gzeira outside Eretz Yisrael. Kilayim just of different seeds without grapes, which is not usher bahana in Eretz Yisrael, they did not make a gzeira outside of Eretz Yisrael. Now Rav Yosef said he later changed his mind because he saw that Rav planted vegetables for the Talmidim separately, the different species separately. It must have been he was trying to avoid kilayim, even though it was outside Eretz Yisrael, and even though there was no grape seeds there. So I said, Abai, it's not a proof. If you would have planted 4 corners of a field and one in the middle, which is the halach, or how you avoid kilayim, as we've seen in Masechah Shabbos, so you would have a proof. Period, just planted 4 separate areas. And it could be for a very mundane reason, like in order that it looks nicer or that the one who's collecting it should be able to collect easier. Okay, now we begin the next Mishnah, which discusses mitzvah and the schar in this world or in the next world. So the Mishnah says anyone who does one mitzvah, the Gemara will explain what it means. Anyone who does one mitzvah, it says, seems to receive a lot of good things in this world. It says it is good for him in this world and they lengthen his life and he inherits the land. Anybody who does not do one mitzvah, again, we have to see the explanation of that. They don't do good for him and does not lengthen his life and he does not inherit the land. Now, the phrase inherit the land means to have Yerusha in Olam Haba. So you see this Mishnah is promising schar in this world as well as in the next world. And that the Gemara asks, but we have a brisa, which we say every morning, that you only get schar in this world and in the next world for a specific set of mitzvahs. That it says, these are the things that someone gets their fruits, that is the benefit of them in this world, and the schar itself is waiting for him in the next world. And these are kibbut avayim, honoring one's father and mother, doing kindness, bringing in the guest to one's home, bringing peace between man and his friend, and the Talmud Torah, of course, is connected. Everything is as good as everything else all combined. So those are the only things that have this quality. Why does our Mishnah say any one mitzvah has that? So Rabbi Yehuda explains any mitzvah more than the total of his mitzvahs and averos. Meaning if he has 50-50, or if he has more averos than a mitzvahs, then he doesn't get this. But if he has more mitzvahs than averos, even by one, then he gets benefit in this world and in the next world. And it's as if he fulfilled the entire Torah because of that one mitzvah that makes him majority mitzvahs. So the Gemara says, so do you mean to say that those other mitzvahs that are in the brisa, even if that's the only mitzvah you did, even if you have minority and that's the only one, then you still get schar in this world and in the next world? How could that be? He's mostly averos. So the Gemara answers, Rav Shmaya said, no, those mitzvahs help if it's 50-50, and those are one of the mitzvahs that he did, then that helps tilt the scale towards the good, even if it's otherwise 50-50. Now, the Gemara says there's a contradiction to this. I have a brisa that says anyone who has more mitzvahs than averos, he gets it bad in this world, and it appears to everybody as if he burned the entire Torah and didn't do a single thing. And the reason is because we want him to get schar on haba, we want him to use up his averos in this world. Now, the opposite is anybody who has more averos than mitzvahs, he has it good in this world, and it appears as if, to anybody who's looking, it seems as if he's a big tzaddik, because everything is good for him. It seems like he kept the entire Torah and he didn't miss one letter from it. So it's a contradiction to what we were saying. We just said if somebody's majority mitzvahs, he gets good in this world and in the next world. So Abaye answers, our Mishnah means to say that you give him a good day in this world and a bad day. We're not talking about literally having it good in this world. I mean, we're preparing the good day. We're preparing the Olam Haba to be pure. And we're doing that preparation in this world, and that's why he's going to have a hard time here for his averos, just like the Brisa said. Rav gives a different answer. Rav says, no, this is Rabbi Yaakov. The Brisa here is Rabbi Yaakov, who holds that there's no such thing as reward for mitzvahs in this world. Rav is setting up a machlokes here. Is there reward for mitzvahs in this world or only in the next world? According to Rav, Rabbi Yaakov holds there's none in this world, but our Mishnah holds that there is. What do we see Rabbi Yaakov say? This Gemara quotes the lengthy Brisa of Rabbi Yaakov. He says that if you notice that there's no mitzvah in the Torah that does not have its reward mentioned next to it, that is not a proof for Tchiyas HaMesim. Because any reward that's promised has to be in the next world. So there's got to be Tchiyas HaMesim. Where do you see that? So about Kibbut Av, it says, it's going to be good for you. Shiloh HaKain also, it says, now, let's say somebody's father tells him, do me a favor, climb up to the roof and bring me the bird, or bring me the chicks from the nest that's up there. And he climbs up, and he does Shiloh HaKain, sends away the mother like the halacha, and he listens to his father, his Mekayim Kibbut of Aim, and he brings the babies down, and on his way down he falls off and he dies. So where's the good that he just earned twice? And where's the Arichas Yamim that he just earned twice? So it must mean that it's both referring to the next world. And therefore, all schar is only in the next world. Schar mitzvah b'hayal maleka. So Gemara asks, how does Rabbi Yaakov know that such a thing is ever going to happen? Maybe that'll never happen. Maybe he'll earn his schar and his Arichas Yamim in this world. Gemara says, no, Rabbi Yaakov saw such a story that happened. And that's why he said that's why he drew that conclusion. So Gemara asks, so maybe that person, while he was doing these two mitzvahs, was thinking about a different Aveira. And because of his hirhuri Aveira, he got that einish on the spot. So Gemara says, what do you mean? You don't get punished for bad thoughts. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not count bad thoughts as an isser. So the Gemara answers, well, that's true except for Avodah Zarah. Maybe he was thinking about Avodah Zarah. It says the man faces basis of belibo. Then machshavas Avodah Zarah is a problem. So the Gemara answers, what he meant to say was that if the schar mitzvah protects a person in this world, it should have protected him that he should not have come to hear him to thoughts of Avodah Zarah at all. The Gemara now asks, how could this story have happened? We have Rabbi Elazar says that shluchei mitzvah, somebody's on the way to do a mitzvah, does not suffer something happening to him. So how could he have been hurt on his way to do the mitzvah? So the Gemara says he wasn't hurt on the way to do the mitzvah. He was on his way back from the mitzvah. So the Gemara asked, Rabbi Elazar also said, not on his way to the mitzvah and not on his way back from the mitzvah will anything bad happen to him. So my answer is it was a rickety ladder, and that's kavi hazeka. It's very likely that something bad is going to happen, and our rule is that where you have kavi hazeka, where you have that something bad is likely to happen, there is no protection of shluchei mitzvah. So, right, because we don't rely on a miracle happening. So the Gemara brings a proof from that Shmuel was told to go speak to Shaul. That was obviously a mitzvah. It was a direct command from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he said, how could I go? Shaul was going to kill me, and shluchei mitzvah wouldn't have protected him because of the Kviya Zeka. Now, the Gemara notes that the Drush of Rabbi Yaakov explained why bad things happen to good people. If Acher, says Rav Yosef, if Acher was a Tana who became an Avarian, a sinner, if he had said the same drasha, he would never have gone off. What did he see? So the Gemara says either he saw the same story that Rav Yaakov was his grandson. Either he saw the same incident that somebody climbed the ladder to do Shiloh HaKain and listened to his father and he fell off and he died. Or he saw the tongue of Chutzpis, the Metorgabon Chutzpis, the great speaker of Torah that was rolling in the dirt, and he said, how is it possible that a mouth which gave forth so many pearls should be licking the dust? And therefore he said, Chalila, that there is no justice, and he went out to do his averos. Says the Gemara, there was a contradiction that was asked by Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisna to Rava. Our Mishnah said that anyone who performs a mitzvah, he gets good in this world, which implies he has to actually do the mitzvah. But if he just sits back and avoids averos, that's not enough. But we have a different verse that says if he just sits and doesn't do an avera, then he gets schar. He gets reward for that as if he did a mitzvah himself. So how do you resolve that? So the Gemara answers that is if a big desire came to his opportunity and he resisted from it, then he gets a special schar for that as if he didn't have avera. Somebody who had no particular struggle is not going to get schar for not doing averos. And now the Gemara brings a few incidents. The Gemara says that Rabbi Chanina bar Papi was petitioned by a Roman noble woman for an immoral activity, and he said a Kabbalistic incantation, and his skin became filled with scabs, so that she would be repulsed by him, and then the sign should be over. But she also knew her own witchcraft, and she healed him on the spot. So instead, he ran away and he hid in a bathhouse that is so filled with shadim that even if two people walk in there during the daylight, they would still be attacked. And he spent the night there, and he was fine. And obviously, she couldn't walk in there. So the Rabbanan, who didn't know exactly why he was there, asked him afterwards, "How did you survive?" So he said there were two things that appeared as if they were Roman soldiers who came in and watched over me. So he said, "You must have had some dvar erva that came to your hand, and you saved yourself from it, because that's what causes nisim to protect people like that." And then where quotes a brisa, anybody has a dvar avera and he saves himself, or he resisted, will have a miracle happen to him. It says Gibari Kayach Oisei Divari Lishmaya Bekol Divari. So the Gemara says that is also referring to Rabbi Tzaddik and his friends. Because Rabbi Tzaddik had a similar incident. He was accosted by a Roman noble woman for an avera, and he said, "I don't feel well. Maybe there's something for me to eat." So she said, "Yeah, you could eat this non-kosher meat over here." So he said, "Aha." So you learn from here that somebody who does this avera is going to also end up doing that avera. But anyway, he didn't want to do either of them. So she lit the oven to cook the meat, and he went and he jumped into the oven. So she said, "What are you doing?" So he said, "Anybody who does the aver that you want me to do is going to fall into an oven like this." So she said, "Listen, if I would have known that it's that important to you, I would never have bothered you about it." Similar story with Rav Kahana, who was selling baskets in the marketplace in order to support himself. And again, he was approached by a Roman noblewoman for an avera, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to go adorn myself," but instead he went up to the roof and he jumped off. Now Eliyahu Navi came and caught him, so he shouldn't be killed in the fall. And then he said to him, "You troubled me to come 400 parsa on the blink of an eye to save you." So Kahana said, "What got me into trouble in the first place is the fact that I'm selling baskets in the marketplace to make money. So if I wouldn't be so poor, I wouldn't have the problem." So Leo gave him a basket full of gold dinar.